Yes, team. Welcome to another episode of the Total Mental Performance Podcast. Today we have a TMP superstar client, Claire O'Sullivan. She has started her own coaching business. How many years ago now?
So it's, oh my God, I'm trying to think. So it's coming up on, it's just over 2 years.
2 years.
Yeah.
And she has transitioned from a previous career into coaching, which many coaches often do. And she's done incredibly well. I've absolutely loved coaching her. She's very, very special. Claire, welcome to the Total Mental Performance Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me here today. It's an absolute honour to be here chatting to you, and thanks for having me on.
We're going to have fun. So,
amazing.
Run me through. Who is Claire? Where did it all start out?
That's probably one of the hardest questions. So Claire O'Sullivan is my name. I am Irish. I'm from south of Ireland, from County Kerry. So where it all started out. So grew up in Kerry, was mad into sport and everything as a child. I think that's really where I first got into the fitness side of things. And I think from there, sports and fitness and being active was always a massive part of my life. And that kind of continued on up through my school years, on into college. So I kind of decided at some stage in school that I wanted to be a physiotherapist. And I think that came a little bit from being so involved in sport over the years and having different physios come into our teams. And I guess in my head, I very much related physiotherapy and sports a little bit, as a lot of people do. And so I decided that's what I wanted to do. And then I went to university in Limerick, went on to study physio at university for 4 years, became a physio. Worked for over a year as a physio in Ireland, then wanted to get more experience. And the NHS was always kind of the place to go to get really good experience in hospitals. So went off to London to work as a physio. Worked there for about maybe 3.5 years as a physio. Meanwhile, I guess, so to maybe reverse back then a little bit, coming towards the end of my college days, I was at a stage where I wasn't very happy in my body or very comfortable in my skin. Even though I had played a lot of sports throughout the years, I felt like I had extra bit of weight that I wanted to lose and didn't know how to lose it. And had, I guess, over the years tried a lot of different things, a lot of fad diets, a lot of crappy things, diet pills and the likes.
And waist trainers, if I remember correctly.
So didn't actually try those. No, I didn't actually.
You just have a hate for those.
Just have a strong hatred. But I did try lots of fad diets where I'd be cutting out foods and things like that, and just didn't understand that whole process. And it was very just something that was it seemed like a bit of a guessing game. Like, I don't know how that works. Wonder will this thing work? Wonder will that thing work? There was no science behind it. And then towards the end of my college days, I reached out to a coach who was actually in the university that I was in. And I said, I'm going to give this a go. And I suppose on that journey I went on then over the following maybe 6-8 months, I started to understand how weight loss works, how all that side of things works. Really got into resistance training as well. And that journey just really opened my eyes and really changed my life. And from there, I had a massive interest in nutrition. So went on to finish college. I was always looking up things on nutrition. I was always looking up things on training. I was always listening to podcasts on them. I educated myself a lot on those out of pure personal interest. And then I decided I wanted to go and study nutrition. So I did that part-time alongside being a physio, but like not with any agenda, just purely for personal interest. I thought that it was an amazing skill to have, an amazing life skill to understand more around nutrition, especially because it was something I didn't understand for many years, and that had a negative impact on my life. So went on to study that, and as we were doing the course, the guy who was running the course, Martin MacDonald, who is an incredible educator in nutrition, he kind of advised us at the start. He was like, if you want to improve your learning and take these concepts on board more, you should try and teach them to other people. So I was like, okay. And he was like telling us to post on social media like what you've learned and use that as your way of understanding it more for yourself. And I was like, grand. So I just took that on board and made a post every week based on every lecture.
Nice.
So it's very educational.
Nice.
So that's how my Instagram kind of started originally. And I guess then all my friends would kind of realize that I was studying nutrition, and they'd be coming to me asking me questions, and same with people at work and things like that. And I was also very into training, so then I was like, sure, I may as well do a PT degree as well. So I decided I would do that as well. And for a while there I was just doing course after course, but I was doing all that alongside studying physio, alongside playing sport and things over in London as well. And so then I found myself having these degrees, and I was friends were kind of asking me more advice, and I guess people were asking me, was I doing any coaching or anything like that? So then I started to do it very slowly on the side, alongside being a physio. And I was just coaching friends really. And then I guess then with the pandemic, life changed a lot in London, life changed a lot as a physio. I wasn't enjoying my job the same way as I used to before. I used to love working as a physio, but things were very stressful, and it was a very different environment, and the service I was working in wasn't the same anymore, wasn't there anymore. So I decided that it was either kind of leave London at that point and go back home, because a few of my friends had left and things like that. Or it was like, I think I was like at a bit of a crunch time where I was like, I don't think I'm going to enjoy life here anymore doing this. So it was like either leave London and go home and work as a physio at home. But my boyfriend, we had met in London, and I didn't really want to do that. And I didn't really know if that was the answer either. But I was doing coaching part-time, and I was like, maybe I could like give this a little bit of a go. And it didn't feel like a big risk, because there was loads of physio work in London. I knew if I left, I could go back easily and get another job, get a locum job. So it wasn't a massive risk. And I was also at that point moving in with my boyfriend, because my two housemates had gone back to Ireland, and his rent was way cheaper. So I was like, it's going to be like, I'll keep myself, like I'll tide myself over with the few clients that I had. But then I decided to go all in, obviously, because it was all I had. And I got a coaching mentor as well. And that really helped me understand how to develop a coaching business. So from there, I haven't looked back really. And I never went back into physio since. Didn't realise that would happen. But then over the last 2 and a bit years now, I've really grown my coaching business. And that's what's got me to where I am today, really.
Amazing. And there's so many different points, and if I went into every single point in your story, we'd be here forever. In terms of where the coaching's at today, roughly how many clients are you working with now?
So we have over 100 clients, and we've kind of built it to that, and we've been steady enough there over the last number of months now. But it's been very organic that we've grown from 1, 2, 3 clients up.
And I think a lot of coaches will chase scale. They'll chase, but I want 20 clients, 40 clients, 60 clients, 100 clients, 200 clients, and they chase speed. But sometimes they forget that there's a natural, or there's nature's law, and you have to grow at a pace at which you feel comfortable at. And it sounds like you've grown in a really steady, consistent, delivering results to a space where, even in our coaching together, you was never in a place where you were overly panicking. You was never in a place of, I've got to get here, I've got to get here, I've got to get here. There was always a steadiness. And I think that's something that's really underrated. And I see it in coaches time and time out. They try and grow quicker than actually they want to grow. They're just not self-aware enough yet. Or there's something else that's driving that push. What would you say was the drive to begin with? And what would you say the driver is today when it comes to your coaching?
Would you say the driver when it comes to growing our coaching business and growing our client base, or like the drive for being a coach?
Let's say both.
Okay. So the drivers for growing our coaching business, I guess I feel like when I started, I had zero expectations at all. Like, I wasn't coming from a previous background of having worked in a gym environment, or I just had zero expectations. So everything was a win. Like, anything I could achieve was a win from a coaching perspective, because I always had imagined I'd be going back to physio, and I didn't really know online coaching was something you could make a living from full time. So I had no expectations, and I guess I just really wanted to help people because I felt like the journey I had been on massively changed my life. So I just wanted to help more people, and I guess give it a go and see if it was for me. And I guess that was the driver. I guess they both tie in together, to be honest. The driver for me as a coach and the driver for me coaching my business, for the driver for me building my coaching business, it's to be able to impact more lives, change more lives. And I guess the journey I went on, I felt like it gave me an awful lot of confidence and an awful lot of freedom around food. And that's kind of the gift that I wanted to be able to pass on to more people. And I suppose in terms of being comfortable with the rate of growth, I guess like it's not something I thought about an awful lot at the start. What rate do I want to grow at? Like, where do I really want to be in 6 months or in a year? I think I can do that better now, but I just didn't have the expectations, and it just grew organically from wanting to impact people and from wanting to help people.
I think coaches get distracted, and sometimes in their environment they'll get caught up in comparison. But it sounds like for you went in with a complete open mind, just a blank slate, and you said, well, let's just see how this goes. And that is such an asset. And if there's anybody that's listening to this, I cannot stress the art of being a scientist. And you might not realize it, but you were probably being a scientist. If we think about scientists, they run experiments. That's their job. They'll have a hypothesis and they'll go, my hypothesis is I can coach online and change lives in the way in which my life has been changed through the power of training and nutrition. That's the hypothesis. And then you run a series of experiments. Well, maybe I'll just coach some friends and family. Maybe I'll put out some posts on some of the things that I know. And maybe some people will sign up. Maybe they won't. And then you tested that and you went, okay, some people have signed up. The next hypothesis is, well, can we get results online? And then you go, oh, okay, some of them worked, some of them didn't. Here we are. And then you went, well, can we impact more lives? And you kept running with that. So unconsciously, you were just running a series of experiments, and you took yourself, Claire's ego, out of the equation, and you just kept running experiments. And if you can have that mindset, that is so powerful.
So I think I can remember now back to the start of my journey, and when I would be like trying to think, well, like what has helped me like make this my life? And I would often relate back to the fact that I was just like a blank slate, like starting out. I had no expectations, I had no previous experience, and everything was a bonus. And I felt so lucky and so privileged that that's the way that I headed into things. And that's something that's hard, like that would be hard to recreate if you were maybe in this industry for a long time previously. But if anyone is and they're changing paths a little bit, if you can try and just like wipe the slate clean. Because I got a business mentor then, because I had no idea about creating a business or running an online business or anything like that. And anything they told me or advised me to do, I would just implement, because I didn't know any better. Yeah. Because I didn't have any ego beliefs, or I wasn't attached to anything else, which when I look back was a massive win. Huge.
And well, again, you're just being a scientist. Sometimes with coaches, if particularly they've been in the game a long time, they can. In fact, this is actually quite interesting insofar as professional sports as well. So I coach a few professional sports people. I'll always love an athlete. I always love an underdog. And sometimes when I'm coaching my athletes, I look at them and I realize that they feel like they've got something to lose. And as soon as you feel like you've got something to lose, all of a sudden your decision making gets clouded. All of a sudden you are all over the place. So a lot of the work with them is helping them understand that they just need to enjoy what they do and they have nothing to lose. And then their shoulders come down. they breathe and they relax, and it all becomes an experiment, and it's all data for us to analyze and play with. And it sounds like you went into this with nothing to lose, and the one thing that you have to lose, which is a bit of a paradox, would be the nothing to lose mindset. The moment that you start thinking you've got something to lose is usually when pressure comes on and performance starts to dip. So it's inspiring. And if you're a coach that's been around the game and you're thinking, yeah, but I've been in the industry on the gym floor for however many long, or I've been running online for 2 years, it hasn't quite blown up yet. Sometimes I like to talk to clients about a factory reset. So become the student again. And sometimes that'll be in the way of a rebrand. So you rebrand whatever it is that you're doing. And you're right, if I started again and I pretended like I had zero experience, what would I do differently? Because we get attached to coaching methodologies, we get attached to the ways in which we think things will work. We see this a lot in the therapy world and in the mental performance world. Is you'll see maybe a psychotherapist that's done psychotherapy for 20 years. So they're like, psychotherapy is the way, psychotherapy is the way, psychotherapy is the way. And you go to counselling, counselling is the way, counselling is the way, counselling is the way. We don't believe that there's one church, that's the only way. We believe that you can take so many different things from all of the churches, and it's not about what serves you and your ego, it's about what serves the client. And that's the number one question we're always asking: does this serve the client? If we're going to change something, does this serve the client? But if you've been in the coaching game a while and you're feeling like you're at a bit of a plateau, something to explore is, and hit pause on this podcast if this is you, and journal. If I had nothing to lose, how would I behave differently? If I had nothing to lose, how would I feel differently? And if I could start with a blank slate, how would I do it? Because it's never too late to just completely wipe the slate clean. Whether you have no background or experience and you're going into a new industry with a scientist mindset, or you have to cultivate a scientist mindset, you can do both. And I think that's a really, really powerful thing.
100%. And I think that was a big thing I took from working with you as well, Kieran, was like just looking at everything as a piece of data. It's just feedback. And I guess just not taking things so personally all the time, like just trying a little experiment. And I think everything you're doing then, like everything is a positive then, because whether it works or it doesn't, it's feedback. You can change and refine things and you can go again. So I think that was a big thing, because I do think over the last 2 years, I've probably gone from the stage of having nothing to lose to maybe at times falling into that mindset of, well, I do love what I'm doing and I do have something to lose here. But I guess if I catch myself thinking like that now, from, I guess, being aware of falling into that way of thinking, then I suppose it's asking yourself, well, if I had to do it all again, like if I had 0 clients, if I lost all my clients tomorrow and I had to do it all again, but I have actually built the skills to be able to do it. It's not that someone else has done the work to get me here. That I've learned so much along the way. I've grown so much as a person along the way. It would be crushing to lose your whole business. It would be pretty crappy. But I guess it's just trusting yourself that you could actually do it again if your back was against the wall. Yeah,
and I have a firm belief that if we were to press this red button and this red button went boop, everybody loses all their businesses, all of their money, all of their wealth, everybody goes back to zero, everybody gets the same house, everybody gets the same set of resources. I have an inherent belief that first generation entrepreneurs, so people that have had to hustle and build something from scratch, you would see them go and acquire the wealth or the resources or the businesses. They'd go and do that again. And the reason would be because of their skill set, because of the mindset and the resilience of what they've built en route. And I think a lot of coaches forget that. You're not starting from square one, you know? And if you have to delete your business, you'd just build it so much quicker than last time. And you'd save yourself so much time, so much energy. And you have to take confidence from that you have cultivated an individual, a person that has skills, has beliefs, has an understanding of what works and what doesn't. So think about that. And the moment you feel like you've got something to lose, that is where you start to lose. And don't get me wrong, like, I love TMP, I love what we've built, I wouldn't want to lose it. But at the same time, I have to be ruthlessly disattached to it. I'm attached to them. I am so inherently attached with the mission and the meaning and the purpose, because that's what I was put here on the planet, to help ambitious minds hit peak performance and achieve psychological freedom. That's it. I'll always be attached to that. But with TMP, I have to be disassociated from it, because I need to be able to make sure that the team are getting the results without my ego in it, without what I think. And it sounds a little bit weird, but when you can almost look at the dashboard and you can look at the numbers, and that's not just financial, but that's also client results. So out of all of those, how many clients are actually happy? How many feel like they got what they came for? How many of them went through that process and come out the other side better? How many of them said, yeah, I'm game for a testimonial, or said, I'm not sure? And when you start looking at all of those different things, you start to go, okay, this is where we're at. So there's qualitative, and then there's quantitative. Quantitative is numbers, and then the qualitative is, well, what is the look and feel? Like, how are you sensing that? But as soon as you think, yeah, but I've got to defend this, of course you've got to defend it, but at the same time, you stop taking the risks that got you in the room in the first place. And often that's where coaches hit plateaus. They're afraid to try and push to the next level. And philosophically, that's what you got to ask yourself: do you want the next level or not? And it's okay to not. I think coaches forget that.
100%. And I do think that you're in a vulnerable place as well if you're too attached to your business and if you're taking things too personally, which is definitely a mistake I have made in the past as well. And nearly thinking that like you and your business are one. But I think if you can trust yourself to know that you would still be here without your business, or like, I guess you still have a really strong skill set without your business, I think it empowers you to help people more, because you want the best for them more than, rather than so much wanting them to be a client of yours. You're just, I guess, if you are on a brainstorming session with a client and trying to figure out if your coaching is right for them, if you're going in with the right intentions and it really doesn't matter to you whether they come on board or not, you just want what's best for them, I think it allows you to detach from that and actually fulfill your mission in a better way from, I guess, like from a way that wants the best for everyone else and sits well with you.
Yeah, and the compound effect of that is people know, even if they don't work with you, they always do the right things. And that's in fact something that we worked on together, is flipping the mindset of sales call to a connection call and turning up in that call with zero expectation. Just being and honouring that person's soul. Not honouring your sales number, not that you were doing this, but you do get coaches that do this. They go in there to hit sales number. They go in there to, when I hear language like, I've got to close, I'm not closing enough. You're trying to honour a sales number, you're not trying to honour an individual. 100%. And when you walk into that call and you just remove all expectation and you're just there with an individual and you can really listen to their heart, their soul, their mind, what comes out of that individual, what comes out of that conversation is so much more powerful. And when we started to consciously work on that, how different did you find working with those individual clients?
So different. And I guess it takes the pressure off and you're going in at ease. Like, if you can help someone, amazing. If you can't, leave them in a good place anyway. And I remember from one chat with you, what I took from the back of it was going into those discovery sessions with the right intentions, and my intentions were to bring love, light and abundance to that call. And I would write that on my page where I would be taking notes. And if I'm like truly honouring those values of bringing love, light and abundance to that call, like I can never lose. Like, nothing can go wrong, and it just takes off the pressure, and you're just there with another human being, seeing if you can help them. And if you can't, well, maybe you can point them in a different direction. Absolutely.
And sometimes it's not necessarily the thing that needs to happen that needs to change. It's just your whole perspective and energetic shift. So if we look at a first call of a client, you can look at that as, this is a sales call, I need to qualify them or close them. Or you can look at this as, this is a coaching and connection call. And if there is an organic, natural fit, there is, bring it on. And if there's not, that's okay too. And you honour their soul and you let them. And that's operating out of abundance. And people can sense that. When we talk about becoming magnetic, it's walking into any room and knowing that you're inherently enough and you don't need to change anything. You already have everything that you need. and the universe will bring you what you need, and it will bring you what you don't need, and that's it.
100%. And I don't think it comes down to the words that you say on a call. I think I think people can sense your energy. They can sense if you are genuine. They can sense if you actually want to help them and you want the best for them. And I don't think it matters what you say outside of that. I think, like, I guess our intuition is alive and working, and people know if we want the best for them. And I guess it's not coming down to any certain tactics or anything you're going to say. It's where are you coming from and what are your intentions?
What you put out, you attract. And if you can just be 100% yourself, and guess what? If you are somebody, it's counterintuitive, and I can get told off for being, well, you say one thing and another thing. But if you are somebody that is hungry for the close, and that is your thing, and you're here to scale business, then for you, you might want to try and work with those types of individuals. Maybe go and work with salespeople, recruiters, estate agents, those types of people that are hungry for the close. And what you might find is actually that starts to resonate. So it's understanding your new unique frequency and working with that. For us, we operate out of love, abundance, and performance. That's the key thing. And we always come back to that performance word because we're always looking for the extra 1 to 2 to 3 to 4% tweaks emotionally, psychologically. That's going to move the boat forward. So when we turn up to calls, there's a lot of love, there's a lot of abundance, but there's also a performance element because we want to understand, can we get a performance outcome or not? And we'll never push. And then people will go, yeah, I'm in, or I'm not sure. And we'll say, okay, that's all right. And I think when you have the confidence to just know that you're honoring yourself and you're honoring them, it completely changes the game. So Claire, what would you say throughout the last few months, some of the puzzles that you've solved throughout the evolution process? What are some of the things you thought, looking back, actually, this was quite helpful?
So I think one of the biggest puzzles I solved was actually getting used to and getting better at feeling my emotions. Something that I think I was always, and still am to an extent, very much a doer and very much a just get on with things kind of person, not really wanting so much to slow down and to feel what I was feeling, or just wanting to, if I was feeling a little bit off or a little bit down, wanting to go for a run or wanting to go to the gym, and knowing that, okay, if I change my state, I'll feel better and I'll just forget about and distract myself from that day that didn't really go to plan. And I never maybe put much emphasis or much value on actually just feeling what I was feeling. And I don't think I was really aware of what I was feeling, or didn't know how to become aware of it, or how to recognize emotions in my body. And I think that was a big thing for me. And I think the benefits that has had have been, I think it's allowing me just to be a little bit calmer, to know that, like, it is okay to feel your emotions. Something that I would say to other people, but wasn't really living myself, or thought I was living myself, but subconsciously, like, was actually stuffing those emotions down and not really wanting to talk about them, and thinking they were inconvenient and that they would slow me down a bit if I was to stop and acknowledge them. So I think that has just allowed me to become more aware, to slow down, to be a little bit calmer, to be a bit more at ease, and to truly, like, know that it is okay to feel them.
Why do you think they were pushed away? If you were going to analyze and think.
So it definitely wasn't something I was consciously aware that I was doing. I do think that I thought it was inconvenient, that I thought there was no benefit to really being down or to being sad, that wasn't going to help me. And I think I didn't like the thoughts of, like, wallowing or of talking about like feeling down, because I didn't think it was helpful for me. I didn't think it was going to be helpful for the person I was sharing it with. And I just thought it was better to be positive, better to always be happy. That's gonna be more helpful. That's gonna help me move forward more. That's gonna put out better energy into the world. And I think that became a bit of a habit over time. And I guess I never really looked at it to see what could be the benefits of slowing down a little bit.
And now that you are acknowledging them, you are letting them in, you're essentially processing energy that's being pushed out. Because if you don't express emotion, you're just burning up bandwidth trying to repress it. And when you start to let go of that, often that's where you become more calm in general. You don't get thrown off. Oh my God, I'm feeling that. It's like, okay, I'm feeling that. Cool. What's that about? Let me give it some space. And often, I don't know if you've noticed this or not, but you can become a little bit more creative, because creativity isn't just built out of the positive. If you look at some of the top artists, top entrepreneurs, they're actually, a lot of their stuff is born on pain. If you think about your coaching, a lot of it was born on the pain of not knowing how to eat. It was born on the pain of not knowing how to train or how to get a physical and mental and emotional result. So there's a lot of creativity in pain. And if we're constantly pushing all of that pain away and we're trying to ignore it, we're actually missing out on creativity gains. We're missing out on the ability to resonate with other human beings. Humanity isn't just about everything is awesome. Humanity is about our shared suffering and how we're all going to suffer. We don't necessarily have a choice. That is inherently part of it. So the more that you can acknowledge your suffering, the more that you can share that suffering with others, the more you can connect with others. And that is inherent part of the creative process. If you look at the great artists, many of them were alcoholics, many of them were drug addicts, many of them were in really, really tough manic depression, ADHD, autism, lots of suffering. But that's what it was, that suffering that enabled them to express themselves. And in coaching, I do believe that it's an inherently creative pursuit. You get to run experiments on people all day to go, okay, well, is that going to work for them? Is that going to work for them? Or is that not going to work for them? In terms of the business side of coaching, is this going to work or is this not going to work from a marketing perspective, a systems perspective, a team perspective, or whatever? But if you don't acknowledge pain and suffering and emotions, then you're missing out on that creativity and the ability to then sort of let that come in and go, okay, well, what is that about? It enables you to turn that around and help people in very different ways.
Absolutely. And I think it helps you understand yourself that little bit better, and I guess resonate with yourself a little bit more, and I guess befriend yourself that bit more. And I guess as coaches, I think a lot of the time we are very good at, myself personally as well, very good at telling other people like maybe how they could tackle something, or how they should be kinder to themselves and how they should be more compassionate to themselves, and then often not applying that same logic and that same care to ourselves. So I think you can be more authentic with what you're advising other people as well if you're actually following through yourself. And if you've seen the benefits yourself, you're gonna, I guess the energy that you're putting out that information with is going to be like, I guess that's going to be felt and maybe understood from people better if you're being authentic in what you're saying.
Yeah. So let's run a little experiment. We did this on your last session with TMP, and we often do this at the end of the peak phase within TMP, which is a visualization. What we do is we get the client to visualize who they were at the beginning of the process and then who they are today. And when you did that exercise, if you was going to look at that, what would you say the energetic, emotional, psychological difference is between those two individuals? The one that first got on that call. And you know what's really funny? Side note, me and Claire both live in Dubai, and we did the whole process online. We're an entirely online company. We never actually did any face-to-face sessions. But think about the Claire that got onto that first call energetically and now. And what would you say the key differences were before and after?
Energetically, I guess now I feel more confident. I feel more at ease. I feel that I trust myself more. I guess I feel like maybe at the start I was very much in my masculine energy, and I feel like now I'm coming more into my feminine energy, and maybe allowing the two of those to meet in the middle a little bit more. And I think it's just, I guess I always felt like I was confident in my ability as a coach, confident in my knowledge as a coach. But now I feel more of an inner confidence in me as a human being. And I feel like that gives me more conviction. And I guess I feel like I'm very much, I have this sense that like everything will be fine. Like it's all going to be fine. It's just data. It's just feedback. We can refine things. We can change things. It's all going to be good. And I think just a little bit of an inner knowing and an inner confidence.
And when you hear your clients playing back your lessons, that's how you know that's internalized in their soul. You ask them a question and it comes out. That's how you know that they've learned that it's just data. Reality is just data. It's all information. And we might have emotional responses to the information, but it's inherently just information. And you can change your entire reality in the way in which you experience life through changing your relationship with data. And when you have it and you get the feedback, you go, okay, we thought this would work. It didn't. That's just data. That's just information. Let's make some decisions off the back of that. Everything starts to really, really calm down.
100%. And I think if you can look at everything as an opportunity, like if I did lose my business tomorrow, that would be crap. It really would. But it would be an opportunity for me to go again and for me to actually test my resilience. And I think now a lot of the time, if something negative happens, I'm like, well, this is really an opportunity for me to put into practice everything I've been telling myself that I've learned. So I'm saying now that I'm more confident. I'm saying that I'm calmer. But it's easy to be like that when things are going great. Like, this is the test and this is my time to practice that and to really show myself that I am that.
That's it. And when you have that inner knowing, I'm inherently enough, and that's okay. The external world starts to change so much because you're just there. You're growing at peace. That's a big part. What we talk about is growing towards something that's bigger and better and greater than you as an individual. Doing it whilst you're at peace with yourself versus growing at war with yourself, constantly wrestling, constantly getting stuck in your own head, overthinking, overstressing, doubting your abilities. You start to operate out of love, light, and abundance. And for us, performance.
100%. And I'm sure I will have those struggles again, but I guess like it's all about growing as a person over time as well. And I guess like the business that I'm building and the goal that I'm working towards, there to allow me to grow as an individual as well. And I guess like any setback, if you can think that it's happening for you and that there's something to be gained from it, then I guess it allows you to lean into that and not resist it so much and to come out the other side maybe a more aware human being.
Yeah, surrender.
Absolutely. Probably hard at the time, but then I guess the more you lean into it, the better you get at it.
That's always the question I always ask is, what did you expect? And then after that, it's how can I surrender to this? Because change is the only guarantee. It's the only guarantee. Things will change. Nothing stays the same. Moment by moment. Time is just a measurement of change. It's the change of one moment to another moment. So based on that logic, if you can learn to surrender and learn to just go, okay, I've got some data and I've got some decisions to make. On I go, and I'll do the best with what I have. That's all you really can.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think saying things like that, and like a lot of those kind of things that we hear about, like leaning into problems and leaning into challenges, they're very easy things to say, and like you can hear that now, but until you apply it to your life and you go through it yourself, I don't think you know it. And I think then you know at one level when you've gone through that, you need to learn it at the different level and at the higher level again. And I think like saying surrender is fine, but it's actually like you need to do it yourself. You need to feel it to know what it means.
Absolutely. And a lot of people listening will be going, how do I surrender? That's easy for you to say. You don't feel how I feel. You're not trapped in it. Part of it's surrendering to the fact that you might not be able to surrender. And that's like a surrender override. It's like, okay, I'm surrendering to the fact that I can't surrender. So, for example, this is a very, very basic, simple synopsis. Last night, I was trying to push out some work. I was exhausted. I made a mistake in my diary and I did 3.5 hours back to back of, I think it was 4 calls. And it was heavy. And after that, I had some things I put a perception on myself that this needs to get done, but it didn't need to get done, but it had to get done for whatever reason. So then all of a sudden I'm struggling to concentrate and I'm underfed and I'm exhausted and I'm trying to push and push and push and push and push and push and push. And it got to this point where I went, I need to surrender. If I was going to surrender, what would that look like? And that for me looked like going to get some food, going for a walk and getting an early night. So I went to go get an early night. I still couldn't surrender. My mind was still racing. My mind was still going and going and going. After about 30 minutes of trying to sleep, didn't work. So I went, right, I need to surrender to this because I'm not going to sleep. So stop trying to sleep, surrender to sleep. So then I got up, I went downstairs, and I got my notebook out, and I just started being creative. I was like, right, what's on my mind? What's bothering me? What are the puzzles that I'm trying to solve? How could I solve those puzzles? Let me try and build a plan around those puzzles. And then I went, okay, all right. I feel like I've exercised that. I don't have anything more to give. I'm going to try surrendering to this now. I'm going to go to sleep. And then eventually I fell asleep. And it's learning that you can surrender at multiple different times. You might surrender, you might walk into another piece of resistance, and then you just got to say, well, I got to surrender that I can't surrender. And this might sound a little bit like surrenderception as we're going round and round and round and round and round. But it is being like water and just going, okay, all right, what is that? Breathe, next, breathe, next, breathe, next. So one final question. Forget us as a team, an organization, us as coaches. But what does the phrase total mental performance mean to you? If you had total mental performance, how would you know?
I think total mental performance would be being okay with whatever was happening, like being able to adapt. Like you just said there, being like water, like no matter what was going on, that you know that you're okay, that you know you can face this challenge, that you know you're giving it your best and you're showing up for you, and you're giving it 100%, and that's going to look different on different days. That maybe some days that's going to be surrendering, maybe some days that is going to be absolutely dominating and pushing on and taking things to the next level. But I guess it's knowing what you need in that moment, and knowing that that's you giving it your all, and just being flexible in mindset, the same as we would, I guess, want someone to be flexible if something big was going on in their lives and they couldn't get their training in. But like being okay and giving in to whatever the circumstances are and just giving it your all.
And based on your own definition of total mental performance, I think we can both say that you do embody that, and you do live that, and you should be very proud, because I'm a very, very proud coach of everything that you've done, everything that you've achieved, everything that you've worked on, and for you able to do that. So thank you, Claire. It's been an honour to coach you.
Thank you so much, Kieran, and thank you for having me here today and giving me this opportunity to speak to you. And I want to say thank you for everything over the last few months. It's been amazing.
So where can everyone find you?
So you can find me on Instagram at @ClaireO'Sullivan_coaching. Any questions, drop me a message. I love chatting to people. I love communicating with anyone and everyone. And yeah, would love to hear from anyone who has any questions or anything.
Amazing. Well, look, that's been an incredible episode. And team, if you could, anyone that listens to this podcast, drop a comment on the post. Feel free to get in touch with Claire. Share this out in your stories. We're trying to bring out total mental performance to the world. It means the absolute world. Thank you ever so much. And you'll hear from us all next week.